So as I mentioned, Washington State Legislative Internship Program, our program has existed since 1955. So, we're not new at this, and it's a program we're really proud of. I served as an intern many years ago, and we have thousands of alumni, not only in Washington State serving in government, but nationwide, and some international students as well. So we're really proud of the work that we have here. So the basics of the internship program: every winter quarter, we welcome about 60 to 70 college students. They're juniors and seniors serving from any major, so you don't have to be political science or law or criminal justice to be an intern. We welcome students of all majors who are juniors and seniors to come serve as full-time staff in Olympia. And those staff positions are nonpartisan, so you're not representing a political party or a certain issue. You're there working directly for the legislature, learning the legislative process, and really learning all the ins and outs of state government. So you do earn academic credit for the time that you spend. And looking at our internship for January 2020, we'll start on January 6th and go all the way through the end of April. And there are flexible options for students attending quarter schools. If your academic schedule allows, you can stay for the full internship, which is that full legislative session, 105 days, or you can stay for just the quarter. So once you're admitted into the program, that's something that we can talk about. In addition, something that I always like to say is, if you think you might be interested, but you don't know a whole lot about state government, that is a-okay. You don't have to know much about state government at all to be an intern. We do 3 days of orientation prior to the program beginning, where we teach you everything that you need to know. So you go from the very basics of how a bill becomes a law, all the way through, doing constituent correspondence and writing letters where you're voicing the opinion of your legislator. So we give you all the tools that you need to be successful from day one in your legislative office. And as I said, all majors, all backgrounds, all ideologies. We have 147 legislators in the House and Senate combined. So there is someone in the legislature that you'd be a good fit with, in an office where you'd be a good match. And then we've interspersed some of our comments from our last legislative intern class, our 2020 class. And this is a student, Corey, who attends the Evergreen State College in Olympia, and he talked about his joy finding the level of civic education and networking in the program. I'll hand it over to you, Leo.
All right, awesome. So what does the internship entail? What does it look like? For us, we kind of have a blend of an academic component where we teach some classes and have speakers come in and do the instructional component, but bulk of your learning occurs hands-on in the actual offices that you're working with. So a typical office has some different responsibilities. Those include communicating with the constituents. That's a really big part of the job, is interacting with the people from their legislative district, whether that's on the phone or via email or in person. Those are kind of some of the main responsibilities that they take on. They also might have a specific task that they're assigned. So something like maybe a research project about something the legislator is very interested in or working on during that session. Also, there is a lot of things that go on with bill tracking, because that is really the process that we're observing. So seeing a bill when it starts and watching it go through the process, the ones that are really important to the legislators, or things that you might find interesting to yourself, you develop those skills while you're there. For us, what we do is, from an educational component, is we put on some tours for you. So we'll take you through the state archives. We have a nice tour of the state Supreme Court, where you get access to places that people don't normally get to go. The governor's mansion and other places like that is pretty cool, just behind the scenes peek into what's going on around us. Also, we have a lot of trainings about just basically how to use specific programs that are used at the legislature, whether it has to do with the bill tracking components I mentioned, or you need to brush up on Excel or Outlook, whatever it is. We want to help support you and make sure you have the things you need. But we also bring in a lot of speakers. So you have a lot of folks that are really, really interested in giving back as far as civic education and to our internship program. So we regularly have like the state treasurer or the secretary of the state, other directors of agencies come in and speak with our class, and really have a good question and answer period where you get very candid answers, which is It was really an awesome experience as well. We also have a job shadowing component that we do where you get to pick from one of several options. One is touring one of the correctional facilities in our state. Another is going up to Victoria, BC and observing how the parliament works up there. Another one is possibly there's something you're really interested in a different agency, maybe not one of those two things. We'll set you up with the job shadow so that way you can see how things work with that specific place and start to network through our internship. And this is another quote from one of our interns last year.
Right. And then when we talk about the benefits of the program, for many students, this is the first step into a real professional environment. So you gain a lot of those skills that you get in a professional office environment. The legislature is very traditional in that sense. So you get to be one of the core people in a legislative office. Something I do want to mention is we don't have a lot of full-time staff in Olympia. We're not like Washington, D.C. And so when you come on board, if you're working for the Senate and you're paired with either the House or the Senate, and I'll use the Senate as an example since I work over on the Senate side, you have your legislative assistant, your session aide, your senator, and you. So you are immediately one of the 4 people working in that office. So you get a chance to do that hands-on work that oftentimes you don't in an office where there's a lot more staff. So this isn't the sort of internship where you're the one who makes the coffee and the coffees and that sort of thing. You really get to get your hands dirty and do that work. You're doing policy research that you get to see a bill become a law on something that you worked on. You're doing constituent correspondence and you're getting to help out constituents every day and see that immediate impact of the work that you're doing while you're learning along the way. And there's no better way to learn about the legislative process than to be engaged with it. And I promise, even if you don't know anything about the legislative process now, you will leave the internship as an expert. You will know everything about it, and you'll know more about state government than you ever imagined as well. You get that hands-on experience because we're not just learning from textbooks or learning from training, you're learning from doing. And you are the front face of your office, and you get to work with stakeholders, other lawmakers, constituents, lobbyists that come in to work with your legislator. In addition, you also get that exposure to other career opportunities and other career paths. As I said, when you are that front face of your office, you meet every single person that comes in. So say you are particularly interested in environmental policy and you're working in the office of a legislator who works on environmental policy as well. Anyone working on legislative policy, dealing with the environment comes into your office. You get a chance to meet them, hear about the work that they do, and make a connection. Those connections not only are within state government, but local, county, federal government on all levels. And it really is a strong network that you develop while you're serving as an intern. And this is one of our students, Maddie, from WSU from the year before, and she talked about the connections as well. And something that often isn't highlighted in internships is not only the professional connections that you make with the people that you're serving for, but also the connections you make for the people that you're serving with. You're in a cohort of about 70 like-minded students who are all equally passionate about government or about a particular policy area, and you get to make connections with your fellow students as well.
Okay, so how do you apply? How do you become a part of our internship program? We open up our applications on September 1st, and we have a priority deadline of October 16th, and then the final deadline is October 21st. These can be found at ledge.wa.gov, so that's basically our website. And when you apply, we ask for a couple things from you. First of all, a cover letter, a resume, an official college transcript. And with that, I'd like to kind of mention as far as grades, we don't have a GPA cutoff, but we do pay close attention to your academic record. And then in addition to that, we need 2 letters of recommendation, one academically focused and one professionally focused. And then a 1-page essay on one of our 3 topics. And they're kind of fun topics to dive into. What book, movie, or piece of art has influenced you and why? What's the best advice you have received and why? Or do you have a story that your application would be incomplete without? Please share it with us. And so you go ahead and write your 1-page essay, get all those things together, and apply online with us, as I mentioned. And then we will take those together, and Colleen and I go through every single one of them. And then once that's all done, the next part begins, which is the next slide, I believe. Oh, maybe not. So then after that, basically, we go out to the college campuses when possible, or we will remotely interview you in this type of a setting. And then there's also another component that comes where we have a small assignment that we have you complete once we're done with the interview. Maybe Colleen would like to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. So when it comes to pulling together your application materials, my biggest piece of advice is connect with Romeal. I mean, he is an outstanding resource. Use your resources on campus and make sure you're putting your best foot forward. We ask for a number of different documents with our application, but it's all done online. You bundle them together, send it off, and Leo and I go through, read them, and then set up our interviews. And fingers crossed, things are back to normal in the fall, and we'll be interviewing on campus. But use those resources on campus. And then as Leo mentioned, when we do the interview, it's a two-part interview. One, you're sitting down with us and you're doing a traditional face-to-face interview. And then we also do a writing exercise. And it's an opportunity for us to test your thinking on the fly, professional writing, and your ability to kind of synthesize and comprehend information from a legislative type document. So it is just one factor in the interview process, and no need to be stressed out about it. But that's something that we do during the interview as well. And another tip that I want to give, and this goes not only for our internship, but when you're considering internships overall, give yourself more credit for the work that you've done. Doing resumes and cover letters can be a pain, and it's a little bit disappointing that we have to work on them forever. They're always a document that we're working on and building. But something that I want to encourage you to do if you're applying for our internship is consider the work that you've done, whether it is working as a swim instructor, or working at Starbucks, or working in fast food. All of those are customer service roles that, while they're not directly connected to state government, they are directly connected to customer service, and there's no better preparation for state service than customer service. So give yourself more credit for all of those things that you've done. You don't have to have any government experience in order to qualify for our internship and be an outstanding intern. So don't leave anything off your resume. With that being said, I am going to put up our contact information here. So we have our ledge.wa.gov/internships. Leo and I share an email address. That's our civic ed one. So if you send an email to that, it will come to Leo and I. And then we're also on Twitter and Instagram, and we've been updating both of those pretty regularly just to try and get the word out about the program. So with that being said, I am going to, open it up. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to, like I said, type them in the box, the communication box that we have there for a chat, or you're welcome to just unmute and ask a question.
And I'll talk a little bit kind of about my personal experience with the legislature, just so you can have an idea of what you're getting into. I didn't know a lot about politics when I started working there. I was a teacher, and then after spending one session at the legislature, it really got into my blood. It was something that I don't think I'll ever go anywhere else. It's just a really fascinating place where no 2 days are ever the same. You're always learning different things. So it's not something that's a stagnant, repetitive, mundane, boring job. You're just always doing different stuff, meeting different people. It's just a fascinating place to be. So that's my little 2 cents about how I feel about the place.
And something that I'll touch a little bit more on is the matching process. So when we interview you, we ask you questions not only about areas that you're interested in, so whether it's education or corrections or environmental policy, we ask questions about that so we can see where your interests are, and it's okay if they're everywhere. You'll get a chance to dabble in everything. But we also ask about where you are politically on a spectrum, from 1 to 10, 1 being the most conservative, 10 being the most liberal. And that gives us an idea of where you are politically, and we unpack that a little bit so we can do our best to match you with a legislator that may not be identical, but is an environment that you're comfortable in. So it is a nonpartisan internship, but that doesn't mean you'll just be working for anyone and everyone. Leo and I put an extraordinary amount of work into making sure that our interns are matched in offices that they feel comfortable in and they feel excited to be in, and they get to do work that they're passionate about. So keep that in mind as well, and that's all information that we cover in the internship. Any questions coming to mind?
In a typical week, do you know what the hours are?
Absolutely. So it is a full-time internship. So you're working 8 to 5 Monday through Friday in your legislative office. And as I mentioned, you do earn academic credit for it. So it helps me if I think about it like a study abroad program, where instead of going to class, you're living in Olympia and you're coming to work every day and you're earning credit that way. So you do earn your full quarter's worth of credit, just like you would if you were coming to class. So full-time. And when it comes to moving to Olympia, oftentimes that is one of the things that causes students the most stress. Oh my gosh, they have to move from Chambers to Olympia. We provide housing resources. So we don't set up housing, but we provide resources of housing in the Olympia area. And it's all designed to be session housing. So we kind of have a temporary housing market like a college town does. So you won't be locked into a 6-month or year-long lease. You'll be able to have a lease that's just for the quarter or just for the session, whatever you choose to do. So you'll have a safe place to be for a short period of time while you're living in Olympia. And there are lots of spots that are within walking distance or a really short drive or on a bus route. All of the interns get a bus pass, so you don't have to bring a car to Olympia if you don't want to. One thing I do want to mention is this last session we had, I think, 6 interns from Eastern and 3 serving in the House and 3 in the Senate. So if any of you are interested in the internship program, but you'd like to hear about it firsthand from someone who just served as an intern, drop Leo and I an email at the civiced.wa.gov or .ledge.wa.gov email address, and we can connect you with some of the students who served as interns, and they just ended their internship about a month and a half ago.
So one thing I want to add just for the students that are here is that I sort of work with you every step of the way. So for those who are interested, I mean, if you have questions about the application process, the interview process and all that. So I train the students on all that. So don't feel like you have to go at this alone if you aren't sure on what to do. So go ahead and connect with me and I'll be able to help you out.
And to dovetail off of what Romeal said, the whole internship, you're not in it alone. I know there are some internships where you come on board and it's like, good luck, we'll see you at the end. Let us know how it goes. And that's not it at all. We welcome our students in a cohort model, and we are meeting together as a group every week for a weekly meeting. We're meeting together for professional development. We're doing activities together like budget simulations and a mock legislature. We bring in speakers where everyone is there together. We do weekly or bi-weekly one-on-one check-in meetings. So it's a very high mentorship opportunity where you're connecting with us every step of the way. And we make sure that not only you're getting out of this internship what you want to, but that you have the tools to succeed. So to use this last session for an example, we had some offices with some new young legislators that came on board that were using Excel and OneNote and some other programs in ways that members hadn't before. And so I had, Leo and I both had interns coming to us saying, we need some additional training with this. Our offices are asking us to do things that we haven't done with these programs before. So Leo and I were able to work with our IT services on campus and set up additional training to be responsive to intern needs. So we are here as your guides through the program to make sure that you have what you need to succeed and that you are succeeding in the way that you want to, meeting the people you want to, and getting to do those activities and tasks you want to as well. Any other questions on your minds?
So I'm using my phone right now. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
Yes, clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm really interested in the internship program, but I just applied to social work program at Eastern.
Mhm.
I was wondering if that would be like a conflict.
No.
No?
No,
So-
we don't have a major requirement. So I would connect with your advisor to make sure on the school side that credits line up and everything like that. But no challenges from our side at all. We don't have a major requirement or anything like that. As long as you're receiving academic credit and you're at a junior or senior standing, then you are good to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Alexis, we could talk a little bit more about that part of it too, because certain departments have different structures in terms of how they lay their classes out.
Okay.
So it might be tricky, but we might be able to work a few things out. I know with the social work program, they tend to focus more on practicums. And so, but we'll talk about that on a more personal level to kind of figure out how we can schedule it out.
Okay. So should I get like in contact with you about it, or?
Yeah, go ahead and contact me after this. And I have do you still check your Eagles email? You do
Yes,
that?
I do.
Okay. So I'll reach out to you after this and we can talk more about it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you.
And when we talk about, particular majors, and Alexis, I'll use yours as social work for an example, that's an opportunity where we can look at what legislators are doing. And if there's a legislator that's taking a particular focus on legislation in the social work sphere or in, human services and that sphere in general, that's when we make those tailored matches. So you would get a chance to focus on an office that's doing that work, and you get to do a depth of research in an area you're already studying.
Okay.
Yeah, so part of the value of having so many legislators, we have 147, is that they're all focusing on something different. So we can find those tailored matches to make sure that you get a chance to work on the things that you're excited about.
All right. It sounds really nice, honestly.
Thank you. Yeah. And, this internship is for students who are at junior and senior level standing, which is really great because then you make those connections and you don't have too long to go until graduation. So you can maintain those and turn it into a full-time job opportunity at the end. But if you aren't at junior or senior level standing yet, that's okay. It's a really great time to connect with your advisor, say, this is a program that I'm interested in participating in. How can we make sure I line up my academic path in order to allow me to do this? So it's something that you can work with your advisor on in advance to make sure you're not in a situation where it's like, oh, I have to take this one class and it's only offered winter quarter. You can avoid those sort of conflicts. Any other questions? I would love to hear, do you guys know anyone who's participated as an intern, or how did you hear about this info session?
Hello. I have a friend that went to the internship. Her name's Eddie. I don't know if you know her.
Pardon me, what was her name?
Eddie.
Oh, yes. Yes, she worked with me in the Senate with Senator Hawkins.
Yeah, she told me she had a great experience doing the internship.
I'm glad. Yeah, she was fantastic to have as an intern. She was one of our Eastern students in this last legislative session.
Yeah, she told me about it, and she told me that I should give it a try and do it.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I know she had a
Yeah.
really strong experience in her senator's office. She got to do some incredibly cool stuff. She had a one-on-one meeting with the
Oh,
Attorney
that's-
General, which is pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
I mean, one thing I can speak to just from an intern coordinator standpoint is that some students are nervous going in because they're not sure what they know about the legislative process, and so what I can tell you is when they come back from the internship, they've done a complete 180 in terms of their knowledge base. They're using terminology I've never heard of, and I'm like, wow, so I would say don't be intimidated about actually pursuing the internship because the training is there and you have a lot of support to help you along the way. I don't think I've met most of the students, I would say, are completely different from the time that they left. So that's a testimony to something.
And when it comes to your knowledge of the legislative process, when I was an intern, I didn't know anything about it. Not a thing. I feel like often our classes focus on federal government. So, if we're in political science classes or whatever it may be, we have that focus on the federal government, but state government was a total blank spot for me. So I didn't know much about it. And when you come in and you're in day one of orientation and you're, feeling intimidated, or you're considering applying and you're feeling intimidated, just keep in mind that everyone else in the program, they've never done this either. And they know just as much as you do about state government. So everyone is in it together and they're learning together. And we meet everyone where they are to make sure that they have those foundational building blocks. And then, like Romeal said, before you know it, you're back on campus using acronyms and, talking about all of the technical aspects of the legislative process that you don't even know about now. Well, I really appreciate everyone taking the time to be here. If anyone has any questions, we will stay on. If you want to ask a question one-on-one, or if you'd like to send us an email, please do so. But again, I want to echo that Leo and I are both here to be your contact. Whether you have a question 3 hours from now or 3 months from now, you can always reach out to us. And then having Romeal on campus, he's been working with the internship program for a long time, and is a fantastic resource for you to use.
Yeah, thank you all for your time today. We really appreciate it, and look forward to possibly meeting some of you guys in the fall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.